I'm Tarot Oracle, and this is a continuation of our Tarot and Symbology. Today we're doing the cups, starting with the Ace of Cups. So we have a chalice or goblet, represents the tradition, sort of a tradition that's being moved along from generation to generation. We have the diving dove coming from a place of higher plane into our normal plane. The dove represents the peace and the tranquility. All birds represent the sort of the transition from a higher plane into the normal plane. The dove is carrying a cross, which is going into the cup. So the different theories about what the M or W stands for on the cup. A lot of people say it looks like an upside down M. A lot of people say it looks like a W. But there are different theories. Link in the description to a thread on Eclectic Tarot where people discuss this ad nauseum. If you would like to learn the different things, Waite studied the Holy Grail, and that was one thing that was theorized in there. Another thing is Mary Magdalene, where you have actually pretty convincing symbolism when you combine these two of Mary Magdalene. So again, check that thread out in the description. So the dove is diving in, and he's depositing something into the cup. So the cup, the goblet, the chalice, etc., represents sort of that tradition, that traditional feel that you get. So we have this old tradition. Obviously it has either bells coming off of it, small bells coming off of the cup, representing sort of an announcement that it has arrived. It has arrived, and it's flowing water into the larger sea or ocean. And that represents the continuation of life, right? The cycles of life from one place to another, from one plane to another. Obviously, we have the cloud, the transitional cloud, with a hand coming from a higher plane of existence into the normal plane of existence, holding the cup. You'll notice he's not holding the cup like this, he's holding it like this. So he wants to give sort of a maximum coverage to the cup, a maximum exposure to the chalice for the normal plane. He doesn't want to hold it and cut off any of the cup. He wants it to be fully, the hand wants it to be fully engaged or fully represented in the normal plane. So that is the Ace of Cups. Definitely an interesting card and a beginning of emotional beginning, etc., etc. So it's interesting that there's no background. The background is just white, and you'll see that with a couple of others, like this one, for example, where the background is just white. But for the most part, you'll have some semblance of a cool or warm background. But in this one, you have, it looks like nothing. It looks like nothing. Maybe a barely small gradient of blue up here, but not a lot, like not a lot of color for the background, which is odd because, again, you'll have in a lot of other things, you'll have different color background representing the warmth or the coolness or things like that. But here you have absolutely nothing. So there's also a little bit of shine or gleam from the hand, representing, you know, obviously a very pronounced or a very open representation of the hands coming in, like a ta-da, here I am. Big deal. So the big deal, the hand is a big deal. The hand is also giving it. So that's another thing where the representation of this rather than holding on to it. So if you're holding on to it, you sort of still have some possession of the cup. But if you're just handing it like this, now you have a gift. So again, that also represents a gift with the hand position. And that is, spend enough time on this, that is the Ace of Cups. Let's look at the next one, which is the Two of Cups, symbolizing the love and all of that good stuff. And the Two of Cups representing love and connection and things like that. So we'll start with the caduceus. So the caduceus is a staff carried by Hermes. It's used in medicine quite a bit. So you can look up caduceus on Wikipedia and find out all about the history and all about that stuff. So it was a staff carried by Hermes. Now we also have the lion representing the stability or the strength within this connection. So you not only have a connection between two people, you have a strong connection between two people. So that's pretty important here, right? you have that strong connection between two people, and that's represented by the lion head up on the top of the caduceus. So the staff carried by Hermes is sort of floating in the air with the lion and the wings. So the wings represents the endless possibilities this relationship could have, and things like this. So we have the endless possibilities of the strength. The lion has wings. Lions normally don't have wings, obviously, but again, we have that endless possibility. Now we do have the greenery, which represents the new life or the flow of life, but it's not a lot. It's sort of a path to a house. But you'll notice these two people are separated from the path to the house. In other words, there's no clear path from one place to the next. In many cards, you'll have a very clear pathway from one place to the next, but here you don't, which is interesting. It's very interesting because a lot of cards do have that path. So there's no path. They're separated from it. So there's a separation from the house. There's a separation from the greenery. They're standing on just this concrete, I guess, or pathway, some sort of a pathway that's separate from the greenery and it's separate from the house. So they have separated themselves in a small way from that area. Now you'll notice that this person over here, I assume that is the male and the female. So the male is sort of reaching out for her cup or reaching out to touch her or something like that. So he's reaching out to make that connection. And it almost looks like he's reaching out for her cup. So it's interesting. It's sort of a join, but he's the one sort of initiating the reach here. He's initiating the touch. He's initiating something as we go through that. So it's interesting that we have the two people and their connection, but this person over here is doing the actual reaching. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, so that is the symbolism for the Two of Cups and the Hanson-Roberts Tarot, which we're using. By the way, we're using the Universal Waite over here, and over here we're using the Hanson-Roberts Tarot. So the Hanson-Roberts Tarot, we have them touching, right? We have them touching foreheads and touching hands and things like that. So it is a connection. The staff of Hermes representing that connection, the strength of the connection, and the endless possibilities of the connection with the wings. But again, it's very interesting that we have that separation from the greenery, a separation from the house. So always an interesting card to read, definitely, and a lot of good symbolism in here. So now we come to the Three of Cups. Now this is obviously the joining, the party of the three people. So they're coming together and they're having a party. And we have all of this fresh fruit. And I'm not going to say spring. The last time someone says it reminds them of autumn, not spring. So whatever season you prefer, please use that season. Whatever. But you do have a lot of freshness or a lot of birth of life, a lot of sort of the fresh feel. So again, the people in the Two of Cups were young. The people in the Three of Cups are still young. And again, we have lots of greenery. And she is actually holding on to more greenery and more, I guess, grapes. So again, it represents the cycles of life and the freshness, the fresh greenery, the fresh fruit and stuff like that. We don't have any mountains. We don't have any houses. We don't have anything. So it's very concentrated on the connection between these three people. Now notice the middle person is sort of reaching out, and this person is sort of holding the grapes. So we have one person that's concentrated sort of on the freshness or the vitality of the three people coming together. In other words, the combination of the three people are making the three people better, right? So it's not just one person having a party, not one person celebrating. We have the three people. And that combination of them is making them stronger. One with the vitality of the fresh greenery and the fruit, another with sort of making that hand connection between one and the other, and all of which obviously holding up the cups, representing the power of the combination of the three. So again, it's three as one. In other words, it's not three separate individuals. The three people are coming together to form one person or form one ability, one power. And that's interesting that all three of them are coming together for that purpose. It's not just a party, it's a combination of people in order to make one strong connection or one strong thing, right? The combination of them three together is more powerful than each individual person by themselves. So again, coming together for the combination of abilities. So that is the Three of Cups. Now we come to the Four of Cups. Look at the symbology within here. First thing I want you to notice is that the tree, all of the foliage is drooping, which I thought was interesting. This is not a Bob Ross tree, right? Not a tree with all the foliage just sort of hanging out and things like this, all the foliage going sideways, all the foliage going up as you would normally see in a tree. This particular tree is all the foliage is drooping, which matches actually the whole feel of the card. So traditionally this is seen as too much of a good thing, as my original tarot teacher told me, too much of a good thing. So in other words, we had these three were satiated, and this person is satiated, and they're fine. They're good. They don't need any more. And now we have, again, the ethereal hand coming out from nowhere, which we have here. But I want you to notice it's interesting that this hand is gripping the cup instead of offering the cup. And again, we focused on that offering here versus the gripping here. So it's a difference. It's an interesting difference because this is sort of a royal or a grandiose gift. This is very much a gift. This is very much being handed to us. However, this one is being held on to. I thought that was interesting. So again, it's coming out of the clouds. In other words, it's coming from a divine place. And the hand is smaller than the grandiose large hand that you have here, and all the aces, that grandiose hand is not there. We have this small hand. So it's a smaller gift. Or is it really a gift? It's more of an offering, if that makes sense. In other words, there seems to maybe there's a deal being formulated between this hand versus this hand, which is purely a gift. Maybe there's a deal being formulated. Maybe there's a deal that he doesn't want to take, which is always an interesting way to look at this card that most people don't see. But that give and take, this is being gifted because of the hand cupped and has the gift. This seems more like a trade. The cloud wants something, or the divine wants something. But again, this sort of represents oversaturated or too much of a good thing. So he's had three already. He doesn't need another one. But again, look at the body language is completely closed. Like he could not have any more negativity at all to his body language, right? So I thought that was interesting. There's literally no way that he could make any more negative body language other than just turning away from the cup. So he's looking down, he's avoiding eye contact with the offering of the cup. And again, closed body language. And again, the drooping foliage. The whole feel of the card is sort of droopy. It's sort of depressed. It's not good. So I always thought that was interesting as well. So another thing to look at with the symbolism. So you don't really have that reflected in the Hanson-Roberts. And again, you have more of the gifting cup in the Hanson-Roberts. But here, again, I think the cloud is trying to make a deal. And the cloud isn't coming across as a big, grandiose, I'm, ethereal, I am amazing, I am very powerful. The hand is small, the cloud is small. It's trying to sort of level set itself to the person or make itself smaller to represent maybe a little more attractiveness. If that hand was like that big, then that would be kind of intimidating, but it's trying not to be intimidating. It's coming down to his size and trying to offer up the cup. again, at a different hand position than what you had previously. So that is my interpretation and the symbolism of the 4. Let's move on to the final card, which is going to be the 5. So the 5 is always interesting, of course, because the 5 represents that just downright, not really depression, but just that bad feel, Now, interesting of the 5, we have the black cloak, and the black cloak obviously represents that bad feel, or sort of that, almost that funeral type feeling within the 5. And the 5 is just a bad number overall in any and every numerology text, so the 5 is no good. So the 5 is represented here by just that black cloak, or that depression, or that sadness that we have. And the sadness is sort of amplified by, again, the completely closed body language that you have, not only from the 4, but bleeding into the 5. So his hands are completely hidden within the cloak. He wants nothing to do with it. Again, he's looking down. He's had enough. He's had enough. He doesn't want any more. And this card is interesting because if you look at the Thoth deck, it's the water is not flowing. And you kind of have that feel here that the water is not flowing. Now you have a bit of red over here indicating something is spilled, and you have a bit of sort of standard greenish blue teal water. Again, that something is spilled. Something was not good with these 3 cups. You still have 2 cups to go, but he doesn't really want that. And you have that over here represented by the sort of the wine color. But over here it's red with a different color. It seems that he's had a variety of these drinks. There was maybe 2 of one of the other. He's had the variety of these drinks, and it's almost like they were poisoned, or they were bad, or he doesn't want it. Maybe he kicked them over. Maybe they were full, and because he kicked them over. That was one theory that I had a long time ago. But, you know, I find it interesting that we have so much liquid. If he had drank all of these, then there wouldn't be that much liquid on the ground. It's almost like, again, that he kicked them over. So he still has 2 to go. He doesn't want it, obviously. He has enough. Now, we do have a pathway over to the castle. So he does have an opportunity just to go to the castle, but it looks like he came a long way for nothing. He had maybe a sip of these drinks, or a try of these drinks, or maybe he just didn't want it. But either way, these had liquid in it when they were kicked over, when they were pushed over, shoved over, or spilled. So one of those possibilities. But he does have 2 to go. So even if he had spilled these, he still has these 2. He doesn't care anymore. He's really depressed. So you have that very depressed feel, that very down feel. Doesn't look like he wants to go back to the castle. Just looks like he wants to stay there and be depressed for a while, or recover, or be by himself, or something like that. So this represents the hermit in many ways. Obviously, the hermit has much more symbology in it. The hermit's holding a light and things like that, which is not here. And the hermit's also on ice on top of a mountain. But it's almost like that feel of, I want to be alone. So anyway, so you do have that definitive feel of, I don't want to deal with it, I don't want to be around anybody, etc., etc. So that's one of the interesting parts about this particular card. And that is it for the cups. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank my Patreon supporters. Patreon, by the way, is a way to support me in my efforts to do all these videos. I do a lot of videos, so if you would like to support me to keep me doing the videos, I would appreciate it. And my current Patreon supporters are Adam G, Alley Cat, Annie Lamaster, Carmen Gabriello, Carolyn Bouchard, Crystal McGinn, Fatima, Gary Fink, Hot Chocolate, Jessica Mante, Kim Wilson, KSW, La Ami, Richard Zeh, Scott Miller, Shintaro Kuga, Sinai Zamora, and Trino Iraverio. Thank you so much for being my supporters, and as always, please hit like and subscribe if you like this video, and thank you so much for watching.